Hello and happy November, everyone. We're gonna keep this short and sweet. In this video, I will be modeling a burger and fries. For this video, I vaguely followed a fellow YouTuber named 3DX or 3DEX who modeled a stylized burger. After the last project, I just needed to model something simpler, so I decided to scan his channel and came across this idea. I obviously put my own twist on the concept, but it was really cool to see how he modeled it in the video and where to start. I was strictly using Maya for the modeling and no sculpting programs. I don't have access to them at the moment. I tried not to let this stifle my creativity. Even though Maya does have a sculpting function within, usually it crashes, and quite frankly, I didn't want to go through that for this project. Going about this model, I smoothed a bunch of cubes. When you do this, instead of starting off with a sphere, it quads everything off nicely. If it's something small in the model and you use a sphere and correct the tries, that's totally fine. But since this was a centerpiece model, I wanted to make sure that the topology was squeaky clean, especially since I knew I was going to be lighting and surfacing this. A very finicky model for sure. It was a lot of duplicating certain parts and moving them around and resizing it. Of course, before doing this, I unwrapped those specific pieces. In hindsight, I think I either could have pasted the UV attributes on the models or duplicated the specific parts after surfacing them. I guess I got caught up on how it would look and got ahead of myself a bit. At least I know better now for future projects, and hopefully you do too. Originally, I wanted to do a little hamburger box, but disliked the idea. It hid too much of my model. I guess Maya didn't like the idea either because it crashed. So my next idea was to put the burger on a tray and to add some potato wedges just to fill up the empty space a bit more. Once I started to model the tray, it gave me a nostalgic feel. There are a couple of old burger joints where I'm from where they serve a good homemade burger on a tray with older music playing in the background. I wanted to stick with a more nostalgic feel rather than a hipster or modern day burger restaurant feel. I use a lot of soft selection in this project. When it's activated, you can move an area rather than a selected amount of polygons. In Maya, to activate this, you press B on your keyboard. While modeling these potato wedges, it grazed over my head afterwards that I only needed to model the one and then duplicate around this scene. I didn't realize this until after the first couple of renders, when I noticed that the ambient occlusion maps were a little funky on the wedges. I guess if I really wanted to see how it looked, I could have done a proxy scene where everything was placed properly and then replicated the scene once everything was textured to my desire. I bit off a little bit more than I could chew, but it's okay. I'm happy with the end results, and I've learned for next time. One thing I saw in 3DX's video is that they made a high poly version and a low poly version for baking purposes in Substance Painter. I had never really done this for such a basic prop or something I had only modeled. I had really only done this for sculpting very high poly projects in ZBrush. This did end up working fine though, and I will probably keep up this type of pipeline for my props. Sometimes the really small details can make the scene go a long way. I thought that the grease under the food looked really good and added a bit of a story rather than practicality to the scene. Maybe you had ordered food with a friend and you were waiting for them to get their order. Maybe the food had been sitting under the heat lamp in the kitchen waiting to be taken to your table. Maybe the ketchup line was too long and your french fries couldn't go without a condiment. I personally prefer mayonnaise and hot sauce, but I'm sure I'm in the minority here. It's these small things you can think about to add to your scene. Once everything was surfaced in Substance Painter, I exported the textures into a folder and brought them into Maya with Arnold's AI standard surface shader. It is a bit of a tedious task to plug everything in manually, but worth it once everything is rendered. I think there's a script kicking around that automatically connects all the specific textures and parameters to where they need to be, but I haven't gotten around to downloading it yet. Here was the first render with textures and just an AI skydome light to get some basic lighting in the scene and see how everything was looking. After that, I started setting up some camera angles for future beauty renders. I also started setting up render layers for ambient occlusion and wireframe renders. In the future, I'm sure I could composite all of these together, but for the time being, I wanted the passes to be shown separately. I really enjoyed lighting in this project. I could really bring this burger to life and set the mood for it. I got to play around with a few different colors. I did use 3-point lighting for the most part. I also chose a warmer color palette, more oranges and reds. I think I also threw a bit of blue in the scene as well. Usually when I choose a specific color for lights, I also use its complementary color. In this case, orange is the new blue. Please don't sue me. That about wraps up this video. Thank you to everyone who watched till the end and has supported me. And thank you to Mackers, who has always supported my artwork and goals. I got a bit of inspiration from her as well when I picked her up a Happy Meal. Until next time, take care. In the 50s, they called cheeseburgers a yellow blanket on a dead cow. How appetizing.